It is day 82 of our 2020 Focus Bible reading, and we are on Matthew chapter 26. Jesus has just finished talking about the kingdom and how he's going to be coming back, and that when the king returns, when the bridegroom returns, when the master returns, you better be about the master's business. And so that's where we left off with chapters 24 and 25. Now we're on to chapter 26, and this is what we read. When Jesus had finished saying all these things, he said to his disciples, "As you know, the Passover is 2 days away, and the Son of Man will be handed over to be crucified." Then the chief priests and the elders of the people assembled in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas, and they schemed to arrest Jesus secretly and kill him. But during the festival, they said, "Or there may be a riot among the people." While Jesus was in Bethany in the home of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, which she poured on his head as he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw this, they were indignant. "Why waste? Why this waste?" they asked. "This perfume could have been sold at a high price and the money given to the poor." Aware of this, Jesus said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. When she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. Truly I tell you, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." Then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and asked, "What are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you?" So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. From then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over. On the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Where do you want us to make preparations for you to eat the Passover?" He replied, "Go into the city to a certain man and tell him, 'The teacher says, my appointed time is near. I am going to celebrate the Passover with my disciples at your house.'" So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them and prepared the Passover. When evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with the 12. And while they were eating, he said, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." They were very sad and began to say to him, one after the other, "Surely you don't mean me, Lord?" Jesus replied, "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But woe to the man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born." Then Judas, the one who would betray him, said, "Surely you don't mean me, Rabbi?" Jesus answered, "You have said so." While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat, this is my body." Then he took up a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink from this fruit of the vine from now on until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus told them, "This very night you will all fall away on account of me, for it is written, 'I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered.' But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter replied, "Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will." "Truly I tell you," Jesus answered, "this very night, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. But Peter declared, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the other disciples said the same. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Couldn't you keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away one more time and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd armed with swords and sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. "The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him." Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus replied, "Do what you came for, friend." Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword, drew it out, and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. "Put your sword back in its place," Jesus said to him, "for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen in this way?" In that hour, Jesus said to the crowd, "Am I leading a rebellion that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courts, teaching, and you did not arrest me. But this has all taken place that the writings of the prophets might be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. But they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward. Finally, 2 came forward and declared, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days.'" Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God, tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." "You have said so," Jesus replied. "But I say to all of you, from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" "He is worthy of death," they answered. Then they spit in his face and struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said, "Prophesy to us, Messiah. Who hit you?" Now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him. "You also were with Jesus of Galilee," she said. But he denied it before them all. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. Then he went out to the gateway, where another servant girl saw him and said to the people there, "This fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth." He denied it again with an oath, "I don't know the man." After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, "Surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away." Then he began to call down curses, and he swore to them, "I don't know the man." Immediately a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the words Jesus had spoken, "Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times." And he went outside and wept bitterly. All right, long chapter right there in Matthew chapter 26. There is this sense of Jesus being clandestine, going to a secret place in order to be with his disciples for their supper. And so there's quite a bit of intrigue going on right here, and it always amazes me when we're reading the story of how Peter says, "Hey, I'm never going to betray you. It's never going to happen." All the disciples agree with Peter. We'll never let that happen. And then within the next 40 verses, gone. They all scatter. They all run. It goes to show that at the time of Jesus' death, there were literally no believers. Nobody believed that he was who he claimed to be. If they truly did, they would have given their lives. They would have stuck right by his side. They wouldn't have denied him. They would have taken their chances with him. Instead, they took off, and Peter just kind of hovered and denied they even knew him. I mean, you talk about just the worst possible situation. And it always is a reminder to me that if not for the resurrection, nobody would have claimed much about Jesus beyond he was a misunderstood miracle worker, some type of magician, wise man, but got caught up in a rebellion. That would have been the storyline. The resurrection changes everything, which is where we're going to be going in the next couple of chapters. But I do think it's important to point out this story of the woman who came to anoint Jesus with that very expensive perfume. Jesus was not one to have a lot of luxuries. There were yes he would create food for people to eat, but it was always for the benefit of other people. Even his first miracle, turning water into wine, he made the best wine there was. I mean, it was great wine, but it wasn't simply for him. It was for the party. It was for the wedding and the feast, and for the host not to be ashamed of not having enough. But this is one moment where somebody lavishes something on Jesus, something that was incredibly expensive. It was enough of an expensive gift that some of his disciples were it says they were indignant. They were upset. Why this waste? Why would you waste this perfume? And here's the amazing part. They weren't worried that she used the shampoo, the perfume. They were frustrated because that could have been sold. And that would have been money, and that money could have been given to the poor. So their indignation is wrapped up in doing good. They want to do good. But in this moment, Jesus says, no, what she's doing is she's actually recognizing me for who I am, and she's anointing me. She's getting me ready for my burial. And because of this generosity, Jesus says, truly I tell you, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. And it's amazing to me because of all the stories and all the different things that we have in the scriptures, this is one where, this woman is going to be remembered. She's going to be marked for doing something so costly and valuable to Jesus. And to me, it's just amazing because 2,000 years later, we just read her story again. This is printed in the number one best-selling book in the world. This woman's story that Jesus prophesied and said, hey, this will always be remembered. Now, honestly, there were so many different things that happened in the life of Jesus. I'm sure his disciples were like, yeah, right. Like this, I'm sure walking on water and feeding 5,000 people and raising the dead. Yeah, we're pretty sure those are the things that are going to make the story of Jesus. But this one did. And it's because Jesus saw this beautiful gift that was given to him. He honors that gift, and he honors the woman for doing it. Again, culturally, women did not have a very high status position in the culture, especially Roman culture and in Jewish culture. They were protected a little bit more, elevated a little bit more, but certainly not in the sense of equality that we see today. That's something Jesus begins to introduce to his disciples, and this is just another example of it. And Jesus is almost kind of setting up, hey, women are going to be a part of the story, so get ready. And I just think it's just an amazing thing that this story is remembered, and it just goes to show when we bless Jesus, when we do things to honor him, that is what makes history ultimately, because it catches his attention. And I just love that because of all the things that are going on in this storyline. That one made the story. That one made the book. That one's been told for 2,000 years because Jesus said what she did was beautiful. This beautiful thing she's done for me. So do something beautiful for Jesus today, and it will be remembered by him. All right, that's it for today, and we will see you tomorrow.